All right, we'll call the executive committee meeting to order. Motion for the agenda.
I move as presented.
Discussion on the agenda. Not all in favor.
Aye.
Carries. How about our minutes from our May 13th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion on the minutes? Favor?
Aye.
Has any conflicts of interest? Let us know when we get to that. Are there any public comments?
Public comments?
Do you have any information from supervisors not seated as committee members? Any announcements? Committee information? Might go start meeting at 10.
We ain't done yet.
Oh, we're not done yet? All right.
I guess, Mr. Chair, if you talk about announcements, do you want to, just a few things on our state highway convention?
For the full board.
I think the big part was I had these flyers made up on Highway 65, which is scheduled for 2024. But our big thing there is the key parts, what is known as the Suicide Hills and the Suicide Corner on 65 and Church Road. They haven't been addressed. So it's, and even the whole project, you know, if you go back to like County Road M when they did the new road from Osceola to Nye and then cut the funding at Nye 10, 12 years ago. So we want to make sure that this is true and that once they see the changes that they don't kind of move forward with the project. But it really went over well, don't you think? We sure got the attention of Craig Thompson, this Rebecca, pretty much everybody. Conference was well attended, one of the biggest ones. It was very business-like. An awesome information setting, I thought.
Deal. All right, who's giving us the review on the annual reports?
This is on our work plan to kind of give you an update mid-year about the priorities that we all set as a board early in the year. So I thought each committee, general government, environmental services, so on, will get a report more specifically to the goals that affect their division more, but I could give you kind of a brief overview. The first priority, reducing crime and increasing safety. Some of the things that we've done so far include adding a recreational patrol deputy. In addition to that, and Chad may know something more about this, but the Drug Free Communities Grant, 10-year program that's been awarded to us, and we've added an FTE to administer that grant. So that's a longer-term grant that we're working on. So those are a couple of things to start us off. The priority of drug abuse and meth in particular. We have refocused the CJCC. I know Mr. Luke is aware of that. Have a new coordinator. Unfortunately, she has been poached, so to speak, and taken a great opportunity in St. Croix County. We do have good candidates. We've been very impressed with the people who are applying for this job now. It seems to be a growing industry, and there seem to be people looking for this type of work. So that's very pleased with that. One change, and it's a technical change, but we're moving the diversion aspect over to the DA's office. It seems to be, and that's just more from our standpoint, to have it there seems to work better, gets more in line with The other thing, as you know, we're developing metrics or tools to help us monitor progress on some of the goals we're setting forth. So Chad has done some initial work on that. It looks very good. I think we reported that last month or to the board. Parks and trails. Several of you saw the new Apple River Park, how it's been updated. I think with the redesign and moving kind of the new department in public safety, public works, we've got 2 headcount. Actually, we have 3 headcount now. Ben Eichelt, who has been our parks person out of environmental services, we're actually transferring him over to that division. The reason being keeping the communication, the focus and the coordination needs to be there. He will still be the point person with outside groups. He'll still be the point person with environmental services in terms of coordination with the planning. So as you can imagine, you have environmental services doing a lot of planning. You've got public safety, public works, and that department doing the work. And it's very difficult to get those 2 on the same pages sometimes. So we've got Ben all in one division now, but he will be the liaison with environmental services, as will, I think, Rod Polk, who will be his immediate supervisor. Okay, broadband. We continue to support the grant process of our internet service providers to lay fiber optic. We are making some expansion. It's slowed down this year. However, one thing that I think is important, we have been assessing the reality of, can we get broadband to every citizen in the county? Well, in our lifetime, the answer may be no, but there's new technology out there. There are alternatives. And so I've asked Mr. Roberts to put out an RFP to do a county-wide comprehensive broadband study to look at exactly what are the needs, what are the issues, and then what are the technology opportunities to address each one of the areas in the county. St. Croix County recently did this, put out an RFP, and they have a company hired. We've looked at their RFP. Bottom line is, we can't get broadband to everybody. Not everybody's going to want to pay to have that hooked up to their house, but there are other avenues. Where might we use the Wi-Fi, the new satellite technology, which is brand new and may be able to shoot the internet capabilities to all rural parts of the county. So we're going to look at that, and then once we have, if go ahead with the study, what we'll do is have opportunities for the board to decide where we want to prioritize and where we want to spend money, if that's the case. Okay. So the last one is, that's the 4 of them right there. That's just a quick update. If you have any questions or thoughts.
Anybody?
I would say that broadband was, of the speakers that came, Dr. Moe, they pretty much was all on board about the importance of broadband expansion. Kind of starts with us.
That may be, you know, and we've still got a lot to learn on this new ARP, or this ARP money or funds that are being provided to us, about how we can use it and what's the best way to use it. But that is one of the infrastructure items that those funds can be used for. Not saying that's what we'll do, but it is exciting when we look at all the new technologies now that are coming out and our need, that it's an option that we'll consider.
Could afford a satellite?
Pardon?
Think we could afford a satellite?
You know, I shot one up last 4th of July. Maybe it's
Still there.
Yeah.
Haven't connected yet.
All right.
Mr. Chair, that was 9. We need to bounce back to 8.
I know. I was gonna correct him, but I thought he was
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry.
Maybe now you can give us the review annual reports on the performance of the external agencies.
I jumped. Sorry.
Kind of speed it up.
You know,
You want me to?
Yeah. Go right ahead.
On your desk are annual reports from economic development, tourism, and the Polk County Museum. A couple, 3 weeks ago, I sent out individualized letters. I had Tammy mail them and email them to the 4 significant agencies we fund, which would be tourism, fair, EDC, and historical society. I got these 3 annual reports back. I didn't get one back from the fair. I also, in that letter, as well as a letter I sent to West Cap and West Central Regional Planning, requested all funding requests for the 2022 budget by June 30th be submitted to me. So those are supposed to be in by June 30th. I guess it was last year. I'm losing track of time. You guys said you wanted to look more closely. Not only did we want a general government to look at their funding requests, but you guys wanted to look at the performance of those major agencies. So I came up with some metrics for each of them in the letter and submitted the metrics to them. Now, this is the first year we're really doing that with, hey, tell us how you did in this category, this category. So it may morph next year because I have a better understanding of what they can provide, but these are their responses. At high level, museum, she did a very thorough report. You can see that they had a lot planned for 2020, and you can see that COVID derailed a lot of plans and delayed them to 2021. I was impressed with the detail and the clarity. She also submitted their 990s, which are their financial statements, and they ended the year with, I want to misquote, I think it's 123,952 in cash. Economic development, this one, I worked with the EDC director. This one's a little harder. I gave him a set of ideas to capture, and we're going to work together next year to maybe scope it in a little more what they can actually capture. But he also provided a very detailed report. They did a lot in the way of helping businesses navigate COVID. They put out a continuity of operations book to the businesses, and we still had a number of businesses expand here. And then they also assisted with, they've got a grant breakdown on page 2 of their report, about 2/3 of the way down with the grants they assisted businesses in getting in 2020. There's more in there. I'm just trying to hit the high points. And if you look at their expenses and their outflows, they were budgeted expenses of 138.5 for 2020 and actually had 75,421 that they did in 2020. The big reason in that gap is we funded a workforce development study that they actually weren't really able to kick off till this year. So that money was continued into, we reawarded it in the 2021 budget. And it's my understanding that study, the website's had a soft launch. I think the big launch is next week or so. And Polk County Tourism, I did not get this until late yesterday afternoon, so I got to be honest, I have not had time to really sit and analyze this, so I apologize. They provided 2020's reports and 2019's as comparison. They provided their analysis of their financial and expense statements. I have not had time to do an analysis of it. I will have one done by the time Jim Gov gets their funding request. Their financial statements are in here. They're showing an ending balance. Oh, you're wrong. An ending balance of 59,666 on their financial statements, cash. And then they provided some statistics regarding tourism 2015 through 2020 in Northwest Wisconsin. Is this the kind of data and reports that you guys wanted?
Just looking at them this quick, my thing is measuring it. So it's fine to talk about what they put in their books, but what does it mean?
Well, so here, let me give you an example of what I put in the letters. Let me pull that might help you a little bit. All right, so if I can get my letters to pull up. All right, guys.
And my other question, Chad, is how does this tie to their MOUs?
So tourism's MOU was rewritten, so
Can you tell us what it actually says? Can you give us a copy of that?
We could,
we get another copy of it real quick. So,
Even
though
though
we
we
got
got
those
on
a
the
couple months
screen,
ago.
can you like show us? To me, that would be helpful to look at their MOUs, look at your analysis, look at what information they said, and are they meeting what the public expects out of them is what I'm looking for, that information. I'm not looking to read 8 pages of mumbo jumbo
yeah.
on how good of a job they do.
Well, and then I get my list. So, for example, with museum, I asked for metrics like number of visitors, number of presentations presented, how much fundraising did you do on your own for this calendar year, metrics like that. EDC, I asked for metrics like number of grants EDC assisted with, number of grants EDC or total award of grants EDC assisted with, number of businesses EDC assisted in locating to Polk County in the year, number of businesses EDC assisted with expansion in Polk County during that year, and tried to get those metrics.
Did you get them?
In a way, the way that with the grants, they were able to define well. They could give me examples of businesses that located here, but since it's a multi-year process to get them here, what I told Terry after we went over this report day before yesterday was maybe for next year, what I need is what we should present is a case example of a business that EDC successfully helped with from beginning to end when they located. If it started in 2010 and they finally located in Polk County in 2021, then let's review that case example of how EDC assisted. The other thing I didn't ask for, which was a good metric, which we'll add next year, is the number of hits to the EDC housing study website, the EDC website, and now the new workforce development website. So that, I think
So
that's,
you did ask for them, but why can't we still ask for them? I mean, why do we have to wait a year to ask for them?
I could go back and ask for them.
So personally, I'd like to see, you feeling like, hey, here's what I did. Here's some additional questions that came up.
Okay.
Here's what I want to share with the board because, these guys come back for handout for more funding. We just got to make sure, and even their examples, I read some of this. It seems a little vague, their actual involvement in some of these items. I'm not even going to say which ones I'm picking on, but I can clearly tell there's some things in here that are fluff.
Well, and that was my thinking with if we did a case study, if we said, okay, from the time that EDC became involved with this business to the time the business located, walk us through EDC's involvement in the business. I think that would give us a better picture when it's a multi-year thing. How much is EDC involved with?
Also on that, West Central would help on that because of the loan committee too. He's got a lot of those.
right, West Side Regional Planning Commission.
Planning. Like tomorrow, they have a loan meeting and stuff. He's usually in on those, like you
Right.
used to.
Yeah, I mean, they're involved in those and they.
So they would have that list also to help us a little bit. That there's the loans that Polk County actually got,
I believe,
and the payback, and if he helped or not. That's what we want to know.
That's what we want.
I'm trying to get the tourism letter up that I sent on my computer, feeling slow because tourism, I went off the MOU when I crafted the letter.
and these folks will be presenting to the committee, correct?
Well, if the committee wants them to.
Yeah.
So,
When they ask for funds, generally we have the handful that are asking for money. They want to make a presentation.
They go to general government for that presentation. We can ask questions to them that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll get the funding request on the 30th. By the 30th is the deadline.
So my big question of the year is tourism following their MOU? Have you verified that, either you or Vince verified in their MOU? That's what I'd like to see here today, is a copy of that, and I'd like to see that they are fulfilling their agreement.
Yeah, they sent, basically, have I gone to their meeting and said, let me see your board members? To this point, they said they have a plan in place. They are recruiting people from different interest groups. So again, that will be something that by the, time they ask for money next year, they have to show that.
This budget cycle, you're saying they're gonna have to show us they're meeting the MOU. And what if they don't meet the MOU? What happens?
I can either adjust my recommendation on budget, or you can.
So we'll get that information. It's just not here today.
All right, so
I mean, what we got from different groups was different levels of detail. What we got from tourism was, we are meeting a statement, basically saying we are meeting it, we are implementing a plan to meet the goals. It was kind of broad.
Wasn't that what today was for, is to review the MOUs?
no, we did that last month. We provided the MOUs last month. So to answer the question specifically for tourism, this is the MOU pulled up. And then if you look at their 2020 report, the top sheet on theirs,
What does the MOU say?
it says they're to report, update to the county, traffic at the information center, walk-ins, calls, mailings, website analytics.
Let's go through that, Chad, instead of rushing through it. What did they do, A? To you?
Yes, walk-ins, 6,859 is what they reported. Calls to the information center, 1,356. This is that top page they provided. Requests for visitor, 334. Visitor guides, that'll be the main things I'm assuming. Okay, so B is website analytics. They listed 68,383 website hits, 2,497 Facebook likes and followers, and 5,778 email requests. Details of events. Number C.
On the front page in red, that they were canceled.
Okay, so detail of that would be what was canceled. Number of advertising placements made would be the green box, advertising promotions. So they've got ads and visitor guides cost $3,825. Winter ads, they $3,298. Distribution of visitor guides, $890. In-house promotions, the guides $888. Summer ads, $2,000. Ads in print format, $25,000. For spending of $35,901, but they didn't provide the number of advertisements placed. They just gave us the total value of those placed.
Well, I just want to make sure is that we're actually, now we're only looking at 4 and part of 5. What's 1, 2, 3, and what's below 5?
Hold on.
Just statement they sent 30.
Yeah. County will support the council with funds appropriated. Council will engage in best practices designed to promote tourism in Polk County. That's more of a qualitative statement than quantitative.
They're trying.
That's can't really define that. Council will update county with audited financial statements as they receive them at a minimum no later than June 1st. We have their financial statements and analysis. Then we went through 4. 5, this is the one I don't have knowledge of. Council will create a plan to modify membership on the council to include divergent tourism interest groups.
Right. That's when I just got the email from William that basically said, we are actively recruiting and have a plan to get people from different
The MOU says we'll create a plan. What happens, and you redo the MOU every year? It's the yearly MOU. So when they get a plan in place, do you change that then? Or do you leave, the council will create a plan by June 1st? So they haven't done that yet, you said, or we don't have it, right? So
Well,
they're
they
not,
have what his statement was, is we have a plan.
so they haven't created a plan then if it's not in front of us today.
Well,
By June 1st, they're supposed to have a plan, correct?
Right.
So they don't have it.
well, he's, you define plan. If it says
That's my point.
you have a plan to recruit this type of person, this type of person, this type of person.
So my opinion would be we need to tighten up this MOU, because if we're gonna allow them to say a phone call with the administrator, hey, I got a plan, and we're all okay with that, I'm as a supervisor not okay with that kind of a plan. That wasn't our expectations. We asked for this to be done by June 1st, and it's not. And I think we need to send a message to the tourism council then that you need to furnish the plan. What is the plan? Otherwise, we're gonna be talking about the plan for the next year, I see it. I just wanna know what things,
I think I think his plan, and forgive me for going off memory, but it said our plan is to recruit by the end of the year, this person, this type of person, this type of person, this type of person to represent these recreational groups.
I know, so they get a plan, that's their plan.
So that,
So what if they don't meet their plan? Because right now they said the plan's supposed to be done by June 1st.
that is their
And it's
plan.
not here. I don't see it in our
Well, he
packet.
sent me that letter, and it was,
Okay, so you got a letter.
basically said, this is our plan. And it was a very broad and modest plan that disappointed. There were very little specifics. In my mind, if then that's what we have to judge them on.
It says by the end of the year that it will be implemented.
Sure, so they got till the end of the
That's
year to
the end of the year to
implement.
implement it. So that is in there.
So you have a plan then, Vince. They met that requirement.
Well, yes. Now,
And now they got till the end of the year to implement it.
yeah, and I think they're in the process of doing it, but
Sure.
But I have to admit, it was disappointing to see the lack of engagement with it. It was, yeah, we got a plan, we're doing this, and it was weak. But
Can I ask how many hours your employees make up these statistics?
from
How many
them,
employees do they have? But boy, there's a lot of contacts there.
But the snowmobile clubs, we just did all these studies. They should be able to jump right into our trail stuff, get a lot of it
right, they have an executive director.
that hard.
Yeah.
Because the
And
PTA
they
has a
should be
lot of
keeping
this stuff.
track.
We have,
They do keep track of all that.
Yeah.
we just had that on the Stour and all the different user groups, so it's in that plan that we have in our trails. So I mean, they should be able to grab our trail plan stuff. Get A, B, they should be able to get a bunch of these. The shooting one we won't have. Destination tourism,
Shooting sports member?
yeah. They'd have to call each one to get those. That's a little different. But destination tourism, how do you define it? Whatever. But I mean, some of these other ones, youth sport tourism, that's a tough one too, I think, to define. But first couple, the trail using and stuff, that should all be state, our stuff. Stuff we've been working on. Tool Design did that one with the whole county. We should.
I mean, Kim, this is for the board to be brought.
Yes,
So this is
but
for,
that's where they get their information from. To get the information, they can go back to all the stuff we just did, so they don't.
they got to appoint people to their board that have these backgrounds.
Yes, and then to get that, it should be in our book. Who's the ATV guy? Who's the UTV guy? Is it, Will Johnson is on the silent treatment.
I would think it'd be best if, the request I would have is that they would supply us who their board of directors are now. That answers the question if they're meeting the MOU without getting into, just give us the name of the board of directors and what they represent, what user groups.
That should be the first thing, knowing who we're dealing with.
Yeah, so we know who to call and use it. That's what I've heard people ask about is, certain user groups feel like tourism is not representing all user groups equally. I'll just lay it out there. That's the
Yeah.
issue. So we asked for the council to look like the community or their board. We're gonna fund them. And I'd like to see, that's great, they got a plan. Have any of these user groups now been appointed? Do they have a person on their board now to fulfill this agreement yet? And maybe they don't have to do it until the end of the year, the way the MOU is written, and that's fine. We just, by the end of the year, we're gonna wanna see the board of directors and that they're fulfilling their MOU.
Oh,
How many people are on their council now? They're gonna add 2, 4, 6 or so.
It's like, I don't know the exact number, but it's.
A little bit, and it's also same with the economic development group. I know the people that are on that board, and I see how active that group is on recruiting people from such a broad, they got bankers, they got utility people, they've got ag people, they've got a very broad board, and they do a really good job on recruiting different people to be on that board, marketing people. And, and we fund them a fraction of what we fund tourism. And I think any of these boards that we're going to require them to kind of be, kind of look like our community, represent our community, we should be getting the list of their board members.
That was kind of, if you recall, was kind of our purpose, is let's put something out there to let them provide to us what they're doing to justify the funding we're giving them. And with that, we will assess and evaluate and say, are we getting what we want? And if not, then we can either address it with them directly, face to face, or we can address it through the budget.
I know we can't make them do anything they don't want to do.
I mean,
I
it's
get
their
that.
group, but we can decide how much they should receive.
Sure.
Or we can make recommendations for changes like we did with expanding their board. Or not expanding, but rather changing.
Diversifying it.
And it's the same with I think that'd be one item it'd be nice to have is an updated list of tourism, the museum, and economic development, a list of their board members as part of their requirements and who they represent,
Makes us feel a little insecure if somebody asks us, well, who's on that board? And
I have no idea.
we don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't feel right about them and feel like it's probably my fault, but they're not there.
And I think the same with the fair. I mean, I know that's a touchy issue, but whether we have an MOU or not, that would be, I can see now that would help us being able to know who to call, who to point someone to, and understand how their boards are made up. I think that'd be a good thing to have.
so in regards to the museum, what I asked for, total number of days and hours per day, open and accessible to the public. Total number of educational events and school visits by month.
Can you go over, Chad, when you ask those questions, can you go over and tell us what their answers were to those?
Yeah, I can do one by one. I can do it.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay, so total number of days and hours per day open, this is for 2020. And the response I got back was there were regular museum seasons, Thursday through Monday from Memorial Day to Labor Day. During 2020, the museum season was closed. She did go into great detail about they spent a lot of time expanding their social media and their website and stuff during that time period. So COVID had, a nullifying effect on that
So
statistic.
this year going forward, their hours of operation are gonna be what?
Their season is Memorial Day to Labor Day, and they run Thursday through Monday from noon to 4. So the point of each of these statistics I created was 1 year is not going to give us a good idea, but once we get this year, then this year, then this year, we can see trends and we can understand if they're going down, going up, if they're improving. All right, so the next one was total number of educational events and school visits by month. She listed all the ones that were planned, but all of them were canceled because of COVID. They did do alternative educational activities. So in March, they started a blog on rural schools, and they did a thing about Polk County's pioneer doctor, Dr. Mary Sorensen. And then they did the Polk County Normal School in May, a blog on that. And then they did the life of Roy Jack Hennings, Dr. Squirt, in their December. So they tried to come up with an alternative way to deliver some educational stuff. They did it through a blog and through the internet.
I think I've seen a lot of progress and accountability in that museum. If you go back 10 years ago or more, it was, didn't even know if it was gonna be tore down or whatever, and now it's really a point of, it's kind of like the resurrection, and I think they're very accountable.
And I asked for a total number of visitors by month. Once again, they were closed, so the by month was 0, the total was 0. And for 2019, they had 2,512 visitors. For 2020, they had 169 museum memberships sold. So they still sold some memberships. I'm sure there were supporters still trying to keep them. Then I asked for total amount of donations by month. She broke that out for me. And the total donations for the year were $17,020. But she also broke it out monthly. You can see some usual grants they get. And then I did notice the donations kept coming in, mostly in the form of memberships, but they were able to keep those membership dollars coming in even during COVID. So I think that's
Very
laudable.
good.
I think that's laudable. I really do.
Very good.
Just my personal. And then total volunteer hours divided by society by the month. She provided that by the month, and the total 2020 hours for the year is 3,914 hours of volunteer hours. Something she added, which was actually greatly appreciated, and I think we'll keep putting it in there, is she did the maintenance list of what work they did to the museum, whether it was us or them, by month or by time period through the year. So that wasn't asked for, but she added that piece. And then, as I said, she did provide the 2020 tax returns that showed their cash. So in my opinion, her report matched the request I sent.
Tourism did.
Uh,
Economic development. did.
Historical did. And I think tourism,
Museum did. Museum met your request.
museum, and I think tourism for my letter and for that wrong mouse. For this section
Yep.
that they're required to provide, they provided the data.
What about economic development?
So economic development, pull up their letter. This one was trickier, and a lot of that is because I don't know much about economic development or how it runs or how it should run. So when I created metrics, it was in my head, this makes sense. So the first one I asked for was number of businesses aided in locating to Polk County. And you'll see that under number 1. He answered it at length. That's the one, when I talked with him, I thought maybe it would make more sense, since this is often a multi-year event, if we took a case study from each year where they successfully located in Polk County for that year and started at the inception of EDC's involvement with the business until they came here and set up shop. Because that's true, it's not a good metric, because how many businesses really decide we're coming and set up shop the same year? So maybe a case study about their involvement, to your point, is kind of where Terry and I settled. Maybe that's the better presentation for each year. But he did answer it the best way he felt that they could answer it. Number of existing businesses aided in expanding operations for workforce in Polk County. Again, similar thing. So I think a better example, because he included a statement, even during the unusual business climate of 2020, many industries and business saw expansion. Just a few expanding both operations workforce are Polaris, vending branches, Lake County Dairy, went on a few more. I think that's another example where we should do a case study. Where was EDC involved, and how were they involved in helping this business expand or grow its workforce? I think that might be a little better. Number of studies and deliverable product of those studies performed related to the economic development of Polk County. This one is a very clear one. They did the countywide housing study that was completed in March of 2020. And the deliverables were the Polk County Workforce Housing Committee, developed consisting of a cross-section of industry experts at the local level. I will tell you, I attend those meetings. I think that is an effective little work group. Widely promoted and well-attended webinar that included the author of the original study. I attended that webinar a couple months ago and participated, and I think there was a good exchange of ideas and some discussions got started about growing housing in Polk County. There are a lot of local reps there and a lot of realtors and stuff like that. So, and then ongoing work and public deliverables are being developed and employed by the Workforce Housing Committee. And then they also have their study published on the website, and it's available to the public there. Number, description, and value of grants the EDC assisted Polk County businesses with applying for. He provided that in number 4. Now we could go into each one and say, in what way did you assist? That would get lengthy. I was trying to figure out a way to capture, what does EDC's, how did they help our businesses get monies? And then the next one was number, description, and value of grants that EDC assisted with Polk County businesses that were successfully awarded. And that really, 4 and 5 are kind of the same question. They ought to be one question. So we'll keep that one up. Any special assistance of note provided to Polk County government or local businesses which are deemed of note by your agency. That's kind of a, tell us what extra you did. Number 6, development and leadership of an economic recovery task force. Vince and I attended some. I think Vince attended more than me, those meetings. So I know those meetings occurred. The creation of a 15-page county-specific reopen business toolkit for local businesses. They worked with us and our public health team on that, and that was an extensive packet. And assembling and leading a workforce housing committee of local industry, additional housing opportunities in Polk County. Once again, I can speak to that because I've attended some of those meetings and interacted. So I know that. Assembling and leading a workforce attraction committee whose work in 2020 will be highly visible and impactful in Q2 of 2021. That's going to be the workforce development study they're undertaking now that we funded them for. I have not had a chance to look at the soft launch of the website, but I do know the website's out there. And then they provided the most current audited or reviewed financial statements. So they don't do an audit or review. They maintain a set of books of budget and expenses, and they provided that on the final page. So I looked through that, and the big variance, the reason you'll see that big variance is we funded the workforce study for last year, for 2020, but it wasn't done. So now it's being completed in 2021. So we shifted in the budget process. We moved that money into. So in my opinion, they answered the questions I sent. I did not receive a response from the fair, but if you want, I can read you the things I sent.
I think we should. Mr. Chair.
Make comment on economic development. I think the biggest challenge right now, and this is also a challenge of the county board, is how do we get people to come and meet our workforce in Polk County? I mean, we got businesses and things just closing up all over because we don't have the workforce here or coming here. And that's a challenge of how can we help with that.
John, and Chair, it might be a tick-off topic for future stuff, but I have talked with Chad about that issue. And we're proposing a resolution coming to the board about supporting those kind of issues and what is getting in the way. Like, for example, paying people to stay home when there's jobs, so we're gonna be addressing that in a resolution. It's gonna be a feel-good resolution, but I think the county needs to listen, because I'm hearing constantly from businesses, I don't care what business you go to,
Everything,
no
all
one can hire anybody.
the crisis.
Yeah, it is. And I hope economic development, and, and that's what, I don't know how we send messages to these groups that we're funding. What are, county priorities change mid-season. They don't always come at budget time. And hopefully these agencies we fund, economic development realizes that's an issue and they should be working on it, right? And how do you send that message to them? I don't know. We have a board member on there, do we do it through a resolution? Do we put it on the agenda? Are we supposed to just call up the EDC director? Do you have an opinion about that, Vince?
To their credit, I think that's what they started with this workforce recruitment. Now, if you want a specific policy or resolution support from them, we can do that. But the foresight on the workforce, it didn't take much. A couple of years ago, I was there. Everybody was saying we need more workers, and that's when we kicked off this campaign to say, how can we get folks to look at this place as a place to live and work? That led to the housing study. And now with this new website, they're trying, again, they're really kind of combining a focus on tourism to when people come here to visit, which they do so much, to get them to look at it and say, would this be a good place to work and live? Or a good place to live, and then the significant other who's with them and the older kids can start working.
Transportation is a part of bringing people here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you talk to our sheriff's department, which I know Chad was there, we were talking about this. The number of, people get pulled over speeding on County Road 8, and a lot of those folks are people from the cities or the metro area going to Barron County. Driving. So why do they drive through Polk County to go work in Barron? Can we get them to drive to Polk County? They won't get speeding tickets probably going to Barron County.
Do we bring in like the tourism director and the EDC director in a joint meeting to listen to what the board, do we just wait till budget to do it, or do we bring these guys in?
Well, my suggestion would be kind of how we phase this, going back to last year, is we get the reports this month. By June 30th, they're supposed to have their additional funding requests because Gen Gov will take up external agency funding requests in the July meeting. So just a suggestion, if you want to do it that way, you could tell me who you want to attend. We could do a joint session of exec Gen Gov like we've done in the past. We could allot each of them so many minutes for a presentation or whatever, and for you guys to ask questions. That way exec can ask any questions they have regarding performance. Jen can ask any questions they have regarding finance. And without solve, in my head, that's kind of thought you guys would say who you want to come and we'll get them to come.
I think everyone here ties together. The fair ties together, the information center, the museum, economic development. Why wouldn't you just have them all here to talk about how are they all working together? Do they, you'd think they all would be working together, right?
So do we want a joint session, each group to have 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or how do you want to do it?
It'd be nice.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then it gives us a chance to add some questions so don't get too long.
Well, we could do up to a 10-minute presentation, 5 minutes for questions.
I just want everyone to stick around. I don't want one group to come in and give us their spiel and then boogie, and then the next group come in and give their spiel. I'd like some dialogue that they're all in the meeting together.
For the fair, for the letter I sent, I requested the following performance indicators for January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Number of events hosted by the Fair Society, number of events conducted on the fairground property by other entities than the Fair Society, itemized list of projects related to upkeep of fairground by the society to include total labor hours of volunteers expended, and the most current audited or reviewed financial statements for the Fair Society.
You got no response?
Received no response.
Chad, who's on the council too.
So what I can do is I can send a letter. I'll send it, I'll give Vince to look over the letters, kind of like I did with this, and say the General Government Committee and Executive Committee would like you to attend a joint session, blah, blah, blah. And also, prior to that, please provide a list of your current board members and their positions. How about that?
Their financial stuff again to us.
Okay, and finance,
I
right?
mean, whether it was good or not, museums wasn't good, you know, it was fine, okay, no big deal. No one attended the fair last year. I think we all understand that, but I think again, it's gonna show this relationship we have, whether it's good or bad. I think it needs to be out in the public, what we're doing and what we're expecting. And we're funding them still today. So I just think, and if they refuse to come, then it just is one more check on their box. So we have to hold them accountable whether they like it or not, is my opinion.
Yeah.
Any of them.
All right, we'll set that up for next month. All right, we got two things on here.
But you're gonna get done early, Russ.
Well, guys don't want to. Start meeting at 8:00. 7:30. All right, you wanna talk about the creation of an ag business advisory committee, or do you wanna talk about the sports ag complex in our meeting? 8 minutes?
I would like to talk about what John wants to talk about on the advisory committee.
All right,
Vince and I have had a couple meetings on that. We've talked to a few supervisors. We're thinking that, we're going to, get some names and bring them to the executive committee, like next month's agenda. And, we'll review it at the next month's agenda.
Well, my question then is, Ron Price is correct, purpose to inform and advise on ag and ag business related issues. Question will be, how do we want to select these folks? What types of farmers are selected or farm related businesses are selected? Do we want a variety of, because people are asking, are you going to have the small farmer, the big farmer, the animal farmer, the crop farmer, the organic farmer, the hemp farmer, whatever it is, there are lots of options out there. And so the question is, it's not the question, we need to work through what types of folks. Is this going to be a standing committee? Is it going to be a citizen advisory panel? And do they want to just meet on their own and say, here are some topics that we think are relevant, or here are some issues we see with what your discussion. In other words, they're kind of a group of folks we would go to say, we need advice from the farming community.
We have several ad hoc committees in government right now.
I would think, Vince, from what I've heard, and I know, one of the bigger farmers in Polk County sent you, I think, a list of like, not maybe there was names, but I don't think we should be going after names. We should be going after, someone from a processing of dairy products, right? Or a meat producer, or we should be getting business involved, or even, to me, I think it should be broad, right? It should be a little guy, it should be a big guy, but it should be industry leaders out there that can help guide us on what's going on with the industry, right? If we do have a snag, it'd be nice to go have, I would say it should be as broad as the Economic Development Board is. That'd be an easy format and to me, yeah, they could have an annual meeting, but if we have no egg issue coming up or they want to show us anything, I mean, we should require at least one annual meeting with them, but I think it's more of a tool for the board and for people to use to say, hey, we need you guys to look at some new legislation that's coming down the pipe. Do you have an opinion about it? Right, John? Is that,
Yeah.
am I kind of hitting it?
And then we kind of be involved in helping with the fair and different things within the county, make them work.
We'd have that we'd have something, someone we could go to give us advice. Instead of just supervisor from District 1.
Yeah, I mean, so is this something like the PTAG committee where we have applications and interviews? Does the administrator recommend members, or do we just want to invite? I mean, if you don't, we can discuss.
Set something up, and who do they
Yeah.
report to, what committee or whatever they advise.
Well, it seems like it'd be an environmental services committee they report to. Wouldn't you think, Kim?
I need general
We would-
gov or
General Gov?
Talking more about, getting the type of people that you wanted from broad section, if- send their resume or whatever to Vince, and then he would look them over and bring them to the executive committee.
I think Kim's right. I think we gotta say, who do they report to?
yeah, we gotta
You
set
think general
something.
government, I would think environmental
Or
services.
environmental, either one.
You know, because you have an ag guy on there already.
Yeah.
General government just deals with money. I personally think it'd be environmental services would be, and let them, like, we do a little bit like too, we have our lake associations that all of us can, in our districts, we go to them. But a lot, we can appoint someone too in our position to do that, but really, what feedback do we get? But just from supervisors saying, hey, here's what's going on our lake. That's broad, and we had names, and we approve the names every 2 years. We could approve the committee by name, I mean, our board could approve it every 2 years like we do the Lake Association. That goes through Land and Water and through Vince. I mean, I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just do it like we currently, I think you could take a blend of economic development, a blend of our lake, what do we call that? Rehab districts that we sit on? Yeah, the rehab districts.
Format.
And let them report to environmental services because environmental services are the ones that are gonna have an ag issue in front of them on zoning or something. We don't have any ag issues at general government ever, do we? I don't think so.
Highway,
Not yet.
Highway does?
highway has ag issues, just getting their products and services back and forth to their locations.
Sure.
We've got a problem in Lincoln Town where they just about eliminate the heavy equipment from any of the bridges that are accessible to the.
The roads get wrecked and stuff.
So-
It does mean a little.
So that committee too would have access to this group then to help with new ideas or ways.
Well, if you go with environmental services, they can direct, they've allowed us to direct the needs out to the various
Right.
agencies that are available, that are applicable, whatever scenario or situation may be.
Well, if I hear you, then for next month's meeting, I'll kind of bring a proposed skeleton body or structure of what this looks like, and then we can debate the nuances.
To give it a format and stuff and what we want done, an objective and stuff, what do we want them to do?
Right.
We need that in a statement or something.
Right.
They're discussing one of the last bridge plans that we had in Polk County back in the 70s. It was done by an ag truck, all in line.
All right. Looking
I'd like
for
to
a
see on,
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Favor?
Aye.
Stand
That's
at
all.
10 o'clock. We'll be called.